Hello, folks, and welcome back to the stream. What on earth? Sorry, I don't know why my... Give me a second here. My model has decided to go insane. Let me try and fix all of that. Okay. Hold on. I think I know. Yep. Okay. Jeez, that's going to be annoying. Okay. Yeah, it's... Yeah, so I was just like, apparently... puking and crapping my guts all over the stream. My VTuber model is just going nuts. Has to do with the hotkeys I use to like draw stuff, and I guess that's gonna continue being an issue. I was trying to make sure I didn't create weird tabs when I did that on these screens, but instead it decided that it was going to make me kind of go crazy. Well, hopefully today won't be too crazy. We are covering the LTA North rosters today, back-to-back streams. It's almost like I'm getting ready to start streaming Academy again. Or tier 2, since they all have different names. NACL and Defiat. I can't even pronounce the Brazilian one. CD. Circuit Deficiento. Whatever. Yes, but no. We're talking about tier 1 today. And North America. So we looked at the LTA South rosters yesterday. Quite a few changes, but not a lot of craziness. It didn't feel like they got too wild. Whereas I think North America, or LTA North, is kind of the opposite. Where I actually feel like they're... might have been less player changes, perhaps, but the team stylistically might change quite a bit. So I'll do the same thing as I did yesterday. We'll be going through an order of matches rather than by alphabetical or whatever. And then we'll kind of talk about that. So starting with Team Liquid, kind of similar to how we started with Pain Loud. Team Liquid has not made any changes to their roster whatsoever. And I, for one, am actually super happy that they didn't make any changes. This is a roster that worked. This is a roster that should have taken first seed. They kind of fell apart a little bit in the playoffs, specifically for those of y'all who forgot. The way LCS ended last split was Liquid screwed up and kind of got somewhat backdoored by FlyQuest in a team fight, which they kind of messed up, and then they tried to push the end, and that kind of put them in a really bad position, and they just lost on that. It could have gone either way. And so for Team Liquid, for FlyQuest, I'm glad both of them didn't make any roster changes whatsoever. For Team Liquid, they already have an incredibly strong top side of the map. I think Impact is the best top in NA. This guy, he's just rock solid. He does incredibly well under pressure, and he can play whatever. So he's probably like the best top laner in NA, I'd say, right now. Great thing to build around. Umpty, I think, is the sort of best supportive jungler. He's not necessarily the big carry jungler. He's not going to be the one making the craziest of plays, but he'll always be there for the team. And he's got a pretty good sense of engage. Yeah, I feel like right now jungle, we've moved away from the AP junglers, right? The Brands, the Lilia, stuff like that. Like, yeah, sure, you can still play them, but mostly I think more Lilia than necessarily Brand or what's the other one? Zyra for mages. And that's fine. That's good. That's in Umpty's wheelhouse. You know, when we're talking about Sejuani, when we're talking about Maokai, when we're talking about Wukong, those sort of picks, or Ivern, perfect for Umpty. It's the best meta for it. Then APA, Yappa. I love this guy. I mean, he came up through the North American pipeline. People who are saying that, oh, Team Liquid is just, you know, an LCK roster. It's a Korean roster. Well, no, because you have APA, who's definitely not Korean in any sense of the word, except for maybe if you want to talk about some mechanics. He's got a shall we call it, eclectic champ pool. I don't want to call it like a champ ocean necessarily, because I don't think APA necessarily has a champ ocean. I think he's got some very interesting pocket picks, and he's good at, and he will play meta, which is really, really solid as well. So he's going to be good. I think he's been growing in the LCS, and I don't think he's hit his cap yet. So I think he might grow even more. Yo, Spoods, hello, friend. Yes, 2 documents. I just made the joke that 2 streams back to back, almost like I'm starting to get into the groove for tier 2 co-streams again. Yes, 2 documents. I had one for South, I had one for North. Last year, my stream was mostly focused on LTA South, and it will continue to remain focused on LTA South more than LTA North, but that's not because I don't watch or I don't pay attention to LTA North. It's more that there's already so much LTA North English content, so I don't usually stream on my side. But in this case, like, I figured since, you know what, the LTAs are, both sides, North and South, will be clashing, we should kind of cover both sides of it. So I thought, you know, hey, let me just do the doc for LTA North as well. And I actually thought LTA North was a bit more interesting this offseason. Okay. Now for Team Liquid, if there is sort of a weakest part of their roster and it's weakest relative to the roster, it would be the bot lane. Yon or JJ. Core JJ, by the way, I think this guy is the GOAT. Like he does so much for the region on and off the Rift. Like I think he's the best support. He's got great micro, and just absolutely stellar macro. He knows where to be. He has such good map awareness. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. His trades are great in lane as well. Like this guy is just best support NA bar none right now. And off the Rift as well, he's been very active with helping the talent development pipeline in North America. And keep in mind this guy. I mean, he's not even a native North American, right? He moved here and he's naturalized now. Yes, but he does more. I feel like for tier 2 than most of the other players in the region do. So huge props to him. Yon is good. I think if we compare him to the 80 carry talent pool in LTA North, he's good. But I think in this roster, Yon is probably not the guy who I'm usually watching to be necessarily the biggest pop-off player on this roster. So he's good. He's solid. He gets the job done. And that's perfectly fine. I think in the meta, the way North America likes to play, it's going to be important to have your bot laners know how to rotate out. Because more often than not, I suspect that... Okay, hold up. What did I just do? My bad. Yeah. So more often than not, I suspect in North America, looking at our top laners, Thanatos is a carry, Surdy is a carry, Whippo is a carry. Licorice, I don't really know if I'd consider him a carry player necessarily. Fudge is a carry. Impact can be a carry. Sniper is a carry. Castle, less so. But when you've got, let's say, 6.5 out of 8 of your top laners like to carry and like to fight, there's a pretty decent chance that Atakan is going to spawn on the top side of the map. And if that happens, your bot laners need to know how to rotate up to actually be there and not just kind of sit in the bot lane and chill, you know? Like, that's not going to cut it. So, yeah. Okay, so because of that, yeah, I think Yon being good and solid gets the job done is perfectly fine, perfectly good. Team Liquid, we know what to expect from them. They're a good team. They should be a top 2 team. I think they and FlyQuest should be the undisputed top 2 teams in Split 1 because they kept the teams together. We know exactly what to expect. Dignitas, on the other hand, is very... I'm just going to call it weird. It's really weird. You look at their roster last split, you've got Spica, Jensen, Sven, Licorice, Isles. I'd argue all of these players are known quantities. Spica, Jensen, and Sven probably command a pretty decent salary. All of them have had their moments, I mean, or have had a very strong history for themselves. I'd argue Licorice has as well in his time. And then looking to this split, the only player they kept was Isles. And for me, Isles is he's a solid piece to build around. I don't know if he's budget necessary. I don't know how much these players get paid. But I do feel like name value wise, Isles is probably a little bit less than the others. But he's a really good player. So they kept an interesting piece to build around. And then the team they actually built was an interesting one as well. Now you'll notice on the sheet, I've got Lyra here and I've got Shaden here because Shaden's having visa issues. For y'all who don't know, Shaden's actually Canadian. I think he's got Canadian and Philippine citizenship. Neither of which, unfortunately, get him... both of which necessitate a work visa for US. And contrary to popular belief, Canadians don't actually enjoy a benefit to getting work visas. We still have to go through the same processes and everything. It's still the same. It's still really annoying. And unfortunately, it looks like his visa is having issues, so Lyra will be starting. And we'll talk about Lyra a little bit as well. But I like what they've kind of done with this, right? They pick up a player from the LTA. And Kenny? Sorry, I'm still not quite sure how to pronounce the name. If anybody knows, please inform me. I'm going to say Kenny for now, I guess. Kena. Kane is a solid pickup. He's mechanically really good. We saw him at Worlds. And yeah, he can play at an international level. I think his issue is consistency, really, at that high level. His cap is certainly going to be there. But yeah, I think he just needs to play in a higher level region more consistently, and his skill level will go up. So right off the get-go, I think Kena needs consistency. The LTA North will probably be good for him. But I'm not expecting like amazing play right out the gate. Okay, and then Isles, solid retaining piece, generally good. The problem with Isles as well is that when Isles and Sven played together, they were a very solid bot lane, very, very serviceable. But they also didn't particularly stand out to me in terms of 2v2 mechanics. So I think a lot of times when it comes to the bot lane, it is sort of a balance between both AD carry and support. It's hard to say who's really the one at fault or who's responsible for this playstyle that a bot lane ends up developing, especially when I look at a player like Sven, who is such a strong AD carry voice, who has played the support role, has coached as well. I'm tempted to think that Sven was probably the main personality, shall we say, of that bot lane, and I feel like I personally attribute a lot of how that lane played to Sven, which is really solid. So I'm kind of curious to see how Owls will do with Tomo, especially when Tomo, Tomo I felt like was a very volatile player. He played, what, 5 games in the regular season for LCS? And then he played another, 18 games for 100 Thieves. Okay, 18, wow. I didn't realize he played that many games in the playoffs. That's low-key kind of wild. Okay, let's talk about Tomo since we're there, actually. Because Tomo for 100 Thieves, or as Lunar dubbed them yesterday, 100 Leaves, because they're ditching the LCS. I was a little bit upset about them kind of dropping Tomo. Look, I get the argument that FBI is just a straight upgrade. Sure. Okay, I'll give you that. FBI, short term, bigger upgrade, sure. But I think Tomo showed really good play, actually, for the games he played. I thought, for me, AD carry DPM is probably one of their most important stats. It's not the end-all be-all, but it's like the fastest, quickest, dirty way to just take a look and kind of have a rough ballpark of an AD carry. Tomo pumped out damage. Tomo was at fights. Tomo did really well. I think that Tomo deserves an LCS spot. Or LTA North spot. And I'm glad he found a team here. Do I think he's Berserker or, Masu or Double Lift? No, not exactly. But I do think Tomo is a really, really good piece. And I am a little bit disappointed that 100 Thieves would kind of drop him there. Now, with Isles, though, this bot lane becomes a huge question mark for me. I am very much not sure how this is going to play out. While I have low expectations for Kena to start, I think Kena will grow. But this bot lane, I actually don't know. Coming off the gates, they could come out swimming. Or they could completely crowd the bed. I'm not sure. Okay. And then we move on to Surdy and Lyra. So let's talk about Surdy, because Surdy, to me, should have been Tier 1 long before this. For those of y'all who aren't familiar with him, I know he's been generating waves. A lot of people have talked about him as like the big rookie pickup for the year. He should have been on EG last year already, but EG left LCS, and that kind of left him and Shaden in a really awkward spot, and they had to kind of play in Tier 2 because they didn't have a team in Tier 1. But Surdy is mechanically insane. His laning is incredible. This guy is probably the best top laner in Tier 2. And I know that there's a lot about hype about General Sniper last year. I'm going to be honest, I thought Surdy was better than Sniper. Like, I think Sniper has a lot of potential and was definitely going to get up there. But at last split, I thought Surdy was actually the better top laner between the two of them. And even now, I think Surdy might actually still be better. From what I've heard, in a lot of scrims, Surdy is bodying a lot of top laners in Tier 1. So, yeah, I think Surdy is going to be great. My big question for Surdy is the same question I have for the tier. When you go from Tier 2 to Tier 1, your mechanics are often not the question. The issue is more your macro and how well you can sort of integrate with the rest of the team, especially in a meta where we've got a lot of lane swaps. Like, Surdy can handle a lane swap, sure, but the entire team has to kind of work together. And one thing I've noted for quite a few of the Tier 2 top laners, especially the carry-oriented ones, of which I consider Surdy one of them, is that their laning phase is amazing, right? They're dominating the laning phase. They know how to push the lead. They know what they can do with that. But a lot of times in the mid to late game with the rotations, sometimes they get caught out split pushing or just not with the team when they need to be. So, to be fair, Surdy's not the biggest criminal when it comes to that, but at the same time, that's my big question for Surdy. I think individually he'll do perfectly fine, and so that's a bigger team question, I guess. As to Lyra, Lyra's an interesting one. Lyra, Hasn't played competitively, I don't think, since 2020 on Clutch Gaming. That's four. Let's call it 4.5 years ago. That's a hot minute. He has been coaching, so it's not like he stayed away from League of Legends completely. But I just don't know what to think about Lyra. He was hailed at the time as like a genius jungler. And back on Clutch Gaming when they played, he was certainly a very exciting jungler to watch, by all means. So very aggressive style in the past. But I'm gonna be honest. I feel like the average mechanical hands level in the game has just increased over the years. 5 years later, I don't know what to expect from him. And when you're in the jungle role too, in a region, by the way, that's known and it has a very stacked jungle role, right? Like Blabber inspired. Heck, Audie's coming up from LLA. Often, we talked about Jose Deodo. Audie's often considered even better than Jose Deodo by the average person. We've got umpty contracts all playing. Like Lyra's got his work cut out for him. Hey, Orbital. Oh yeah, I got spreadsheets for North and South because yeah. I mean, we're all one region now, so gotta think about both sides. Yeah, I think for Dignitas, their roster in Split 1, I don't hold out a ton of hope for it. Especially if Shaden can't get his visa. If Shaden gets his visa, I have more hope for this. But without the visa, with Lyra in, I would be surprised if they can get past the first 2 rounds. I'm actually not sure. Okay, so the Dig falls in the first round. They face 100 Thieves of Disguised. Yeah, I think Dig versus Disguise will be a very spicy matchup. They might be able to get past the second round, maybe, because I think Disguise and that will be a... Yeah, are in kind of similar straits. Orbital, you'll be around, dude. Oh, for sure. Yeah, just feel free to dip in and out, man. If it's anything like yesterday, it'll probably be like slightly more than an hour. Okay, this matchup though is going to be Team Liquid favored. I feel bad for Dig. It's going to be really tough. Maybe Dig can like pull off a surprise against Team Liquid, but I kind of doubt it. And I know that Liquid has been working on improving and making sure they don't throw anymore after last split. So I think that's going to be a really tough one for Dignitas, and Team Liquid should take this. Okay, we were just talking about potential Disguise versus Dig. That means I favor 100 Thieves over Disguise, and let's get into that. Because 100 Thieves, the only change they made was Tomo for SBI. And again, I think in the short term, FBI is a really good AD carry. It's probably an upgrade in the short term. Long term as well, who knows? Depends on how Tomo grows. Everything else is kind of same. That said, despite being LCS 3rd seed, I'm actually not super high on 100 Thieves. Hey, Lunar, C9 overrated. We'll get to C9, all right. That one's an interesting one for sure. They made some... Yeah, they made changes. I don't hate all of it, but yeah. We'll start with 100 Leaves first, as you like to call them. Sniper. Look, I love Sniper. Like, similar to APA, this guy came up through the tier 2, the North American talent pipeline. He's part of a dynasty. Both his brothers play League, Viper and Crimson. Viper, of course, having found success prior. Crimson's still in the tier 2, tier 3 scene, who's twins with Sniper. Very mechanical player. But first of all, I really didn't like how they used him, his debut. You can see from last split, his most played champions were Nectin and Cassante. Those aren't flipping... Like, those aren't Sniper champions. Sniper loves his carries. Things like, Irelia, like Riven. That's what he likes. That's what I want to see him on. Give him the Camille more. Give him the Jax more. Even the Olaf to a lesser extent. I really didn't like what they ended up making him play. And I'm going to say that was a team decision and not necessarily Sniper's decision to just constantly be picking Renekton and Cassante. I suspect too, if I check, that he probably got that he was blind picking more often than not. Which for a mechanical player like Sniper, to me, that hurts my soul. That said, I also think that Sniper's mental needs work. When he's under pressure, sometimes he doesn't always make the best decision. And that's fine. He's a young player. This is only his second year in tier 1. Yeah, I'm sure he'll continue to improve. But that does mean that I think 100 Thieves is a little bit volatile right now. And especially in elimination matches or big time matches, I'm not completely sold. River, I won't say I was a big fan of River coming into the LCS during his time. But I did think that River was a He was a solid jungler. Last split was not his best split. I did feel like he was a little bit underwhelming at times. Like, how do I put this? He felt invisible more often than not to me. And I don't think that's something that you can afford. No, you can be supportive like Umti is and still have very visible impact on the map. But River wasn't that. Like, yes, he was supportive for the team, but he also didn't feel like the most impactful person. And when you look at what he played, I think River might have had one of like the most extensive champion pools in a non-fearless format. But it didn't feel like he was amazing on the champions. And he had quite a few carry champions because it was the maybe because it was the carry meta, that River just didn't feel amazing to me. I felt like it was more on Tomo, on Quid, and then Sniper was just all over the place last bit. And part of that I think wasn't River. I don't know. I don't feel like River gave enough resources to Sniper, but on a team where you had Tomo, who was also volatile, where you had Meech, who was supposed to be a big carry for the team prior to Tomo, where you have Quid, I understand that River needs to split time. And I think one of the problems for 100 Thieves will be trying to figure out where they allocate resources. Maybe with FBI, they can just kind of give less resources to bot lane and focus more on solo lanes, perhaps. Okay, Quid was great. Good import. And I know a lot of people are pointing at Quid and saying that, hey, look, we had Quid, we had Quad, both of them did a wonderful job. We should just keep importing Korean mid laners. I am not a fan of that. I think Quid and Quad were the exception to the rule, and they are not the standard. And I actually love the fact that FlyQuest put Quad in FlyQuest Challengers or their tier 2 team, for their NACL team for a little bit to get him acclimatized before putting him on the big stage. I thought that was a brilliant move. But yeah, as it stands right now, yeah, I'm not super crazy about the Loki and perhaps Saint coming in. But yeah, Quid's great. He's good. He'll probably be a big part of this team. Again, Lunar format stupid. Why do a seeded draw? Why flip the bracket? Well, like you said, it's, you know, if you get 3 good teams to one side, then you flip it. So that it's just to make sure that we don't keep getting the same sides clashing, right? Like if not, there's a chance that you double up on one of the matches. And you're trying to avoid that as much as possible till later parts of the bracket. And I'm gonna be honest, I feel like if you're doing a fairly random draw, even if it's seeded, it still feels fairly random. I kind of don't care if you flip the bracket or not. You can flip the bracket for like more guaranteed, not randomness, but a more even spread. Sure, whether you flip it or not, I don't think it makes a difference. Ayla's good. I'm fine that they, like, yeah, Ayla was good, solid, sure. Yeah, I think 100 Thieves, I don't feel like they're the third best team this split. I actually have them lower, but yeah, they're just fairly volatile, and I'm just not sold on Sniper and River in this split. Maybe in split 2, I'll be a bit higher on them when they've got a bit more time under their belt, but as it stands right now, with how short it is, I think this roster will struggle. Funnily enough, FBI, which was the only change, is not my concern whatsoever. I think FBI will be fine with this roster. I have no concerns about FBI there. Okay, Disguised Gaming. This one had Disguised is interesting because they are, you know, the sort of content creator back team. They're coming in from the NACL, and they remind me a little bit of Leviathan, in terms of the South when we looked at them and we were like, why is Leviathan the partner and not the guest team? Well, Disguised is the guest team, but I am surprised that they were the picked guest team because they didn't do well in NACL, to be completely honest. They actually finished 6th in NACL. That said, the roster is completely different. Like, they just completely wiped out the entire roster and went and just upgraded. Yeah, you know, I'll say they upgraded in every single role. So that was kind of interesting that happened. I remember, I think. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so they just upgraded in pretty much every single role. Castle coming over from IMT is fine. IMT sucked, but Castle was not the issue. He wasn't the answer, but he wasn't the issue. I do think, though, that Castle is going to struggle in this league against a lot of these players. Actually, let me double check his stats, because I don't think he was that good, was he? Castle, lowest KDA. Highest average deaths? Yeah, highest average deaths. Okay, I take that back. Maybe his is going to be kind of rough. He had good KP though, at least. Yeah, you see, this is my problem, right? Like, I feel like Castle did a lot for the team. So I don't know how much of his deaths is because his team was bad versus he himself was bad. Because GD at 15, being down that much is not a good sign. Yeah, his XP being down is actually really bad too. And his CSD, so he was just straight out losing lane. Some of that comes from lane swaps and from like jungle pressure and whatnot. But overall, my snap impression is that he is probably the weakest top laner in the league right now. Him and Sniper are probably the two I have the biggest concerns about. But I actually think Sniper's better. And Sniper's younger. He's got space to grow. Also, a bit more of a known quantity. XU being back, I'm happy for that. In Furex Starforge, when we saw America's Challengers, when FSX was playing, I felt like XU and Ablaze Olive were the two sort of biggest parts of that roster that really carried them to second place. So, yeah, XU being here will be good. In a very stacked league, I don't think XU is even the worst jungler here. I think Lyra and River concern me more than XU. So, yeah, I think he'll be good. His mechanics are fine, but I think XU is more of a smart player. So, yeah, that should be good. Abadage was an interesting one coming through from Disguised. Apparently, it wasn't their first choice, but... Oh, no, sorry. I'm getting mixed up. Shopify wanted Abadage, sorry. So this guy's got Abadage, which is good. Yeah, I think Abadage, he didn't necessarily have the best time of it in tier 2 in Europe, but I still think he's a really, like, generally a pretty good player. So I'll call him an above average player. I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch much of his last year's season when he was in the LFL. So I don't know. But the last time we saw Abadage in, I think it was in LCS or LEC. Yeah, LCS on 100 Thieves. He was pretty decent. But that was, when was that? 2021. Jeez. So kind of a similar situation for me for Lyra, where the last time I saw them was a long time ago. That said, Abadage was playing, Lyra wasn't. Lyra was coaching. So, yeah, I think Abadage should be fine. Should be better. The big question for me for Abadage is more just how do you stack up against all these Korean imports that we suddenly got, right? Like Saint, Kena, Quad, Loki, Quid, right? And then APA is really, really good as well. Mechanically, he's matched up against the Korean mid laners, no problems. You know, any confirmation on the rumor RMC puts... No, definitely not. I don't even like ketchup. I don't eat ketchup most of the time, much less on steak. That's just a travesty. Why do you ruin steak that way? At most, like a black pepper or mushroom demi-glaze. I'm not even that big of a fan of jus that much, but jus is fine too. Just natural steak. You don't need sauce for steak. Also, I don't like steak sauce. Same thing as ketchup. I feel like it's a waste. Okay, Scary Jerry. Okay, so Scary Jerry is an interesting one. I love his trash talk. I like Scary Jerry as a person. His sort of trajectory, pardon me, from collegiate when he was on an unknown Converse roster at that point. Converse now more well known in the collegiate scene, but at that point they weren't terribly well known. Trajectory has been insane. If we're talking rookies with some of the craziest stories, it'd be Sniper and Scary Jerry for sure. Sniper being scouted like super young, and Scary Jerry just coming out of absolutely nowhere. Problem is, mental is super weak for this guy, and understandably so, right? You weren't expecting to be such a big star in a way in the scene, and then you suddenly get pushed as like one of the biggest upcoming AD carries. But yeah, he cracks in pressure situations. Dragonsteel or Maryville were known as chokers because they kept choking at lands at critical finals, and they couldn't win despite having the strongest squad on paper, bar none, in collegiate. And in NACL too, they kept choking, and that was why them winning the NACL last split was such a big deal for this Dragonsteel team. And then they go to America's Challengers and they choked. They won like what, one game in the entire freaking tournament? Like, that's not okay. They were supposed to win it all. So yeah, I don't know about Jerry, man. Like, I have huge question marks on this guy right now. walking into this tournament. Because on one hand, I think he's not going to choke right out the gate. I think the pressure on him is low, and so he's actually going to kind of do well. Let's see how it goes. Huhi's good, very experienced, so, which is going to be good for Scary Jerry. I do like the fact that this roster has quite a few experienced players around Scary Jerry, so he does not have to shoulder any sort of weight or pressure. And in the bot lane too, this duo should be a very solid duo to grow Scary Jerry. Yeah, so I think this will be fine. This will be good. Uhi has good map awareness as well, and his mechanics are often, I think, overlooked a lot. Like mechanically in lane, he's actually really good with trades and knowing when to go in and whatnot. It's just a lot of times people don't talk about those trades. So yeah, I think this will be a good bot lane. This matchup's kind of spicy and interesting, but 100 Thieves are heavily favored. There's just so much more experience on their side. Disguise is just too much of a wild card with this roster. I don't like, or not say I don't like, but I don't think Castle is going to be a strong side you can play for. And I think you're throwing resources into Scary Jerry and Huhi to start the season. I don't know if Scary Jerry will be able to pop off successfully. That's a lot of pressure for a rookie. And then, so you're kind of trusting on Abadage to be the big carry, which I think in other splits might have been viable. But this split, again, there's just so many individually talented mid laners that I'm not confident in Abadage to be able to be the big carry that the team needs. You know, I think he'll be a solid player for sure. And the occasional carry. But if he's your only carry, I think you got problems. And that will bleed into XU as well. Because if you've got losing lanes across the board, XU can't do a lot. He's going to try, but XU does best when he's got like clear sides he can play to. He's a smart player, though. I'm sure he'll figure something out. This should be a heavily 100 Thieves favorite right now. And then Disguise versus Dig will be a spicy one. Actually, Dig has better hands, I think, across the board. Yeah, even for Tomo versus Scary Jerry, Tomo's hands are really good as well. Just that he didn't play that much against Scary Jerry, so because Scary Jerry is like a meteor, he just came out of nowhere. Okay, FlyQuest, very similar to Team Liquid. We know they're good. I'm gonna be honest, I don't get the Whipple hate sometimes. I think Whipple is good, and yeah, has he choked or screwed up? Yes, he has. But similar to how I treat Croc and these are Hyberians players, I think overall he's a plus. And what I kind of really like about Whipple is that he can be a massive carry on tanks, kind of similar to Fudge as well. So, if you can win as a tank and like not have to draw any pressure, and then you're just so much more effective in those skirmishes as well. So I love it. Inspired's got some spicy picks. This guy's a huge, I don't know if carry's the right word for it. He's a huge jungler for the team. He can carry. What they call it, tactically as well. So what I mean by that is like you can play damage champions, and those are your traditional carries, if you will, because you just pump out damage. But Inspired, even on non like damage oriented champions, things like Vi, like Skarner, it's about how he engages, his target selection, how he positions. Inspired to me is a I'd argue he and Umpty were probably the best junglers to me last year. Yeah, actually, you know, I will say that with more confidence. They were the best junglers last year. So yeah, absolutely massive. Quad, I absolutely like, man, I talked about Quad and Quid earlier being the exception to the rule. Quad, I think he had some confidence issues on stage games initially. It looks like, at least from his gameplay, that he's completely overcome them. This guy is insane. And it's so hard to just win lane against him. Give him a carry, and he'll carry. And what, to me, made FlyQuest so incredibly good, and I think what kind of won them the last split, was the fact that this team has nerves of steel. You look at Bippo, Inspired, and Busio, or to a lesser extent Busio, but even Busio's had enough experience now that they're chill. They've played in high-stakes games. They know how it is. They're fine. But Quad and Masu, the fact that these guys played so cool under pressure was absolutely insane to me. I am so impressed. Masu, I think, was the highest KDA in playoffs, or the entire season? No, playoffs last split. And yeah, he was just pumping out so much damage. And that's the problem when you're playing against FlyQuest, is that Quad and Masu, they're such stable players and they're always such huge threats that you just have to respect them. You can't ignore them. And that means that Bwipo can be the X factor, right? Like, yeah, again, he's had some really, really bad games, but even when he has bad games, he still has impact a lot of times. And then he's got the leeway and freedom to do that. Same with Inspired to a lesser extent. I don't want to call Inspired an X factor because I think Inspired is more consistent. He is more stable. He's not going to throw you the game. But yeah, having Quad and Masu just be so incredibly solid just gives this team so much more leeway. And it's funny because I know players were saying that, oh no, Team Liquid is more stable, you know, like they're more consistent in their plays. Sure, I think strategically Team Liquid is more stable. But I think when you're in clutch situation, when you're in playoffs, when you're in eliminations, FlyQuest nerves are better than Team Liquid nerves. So I think FlyQuest and Team Liquid, number 1, number 2, in either way is fine. Like, I think they're just top 2 teams, bar none. Personally, if forced to put one above the other, I'd put FlyQuest because I think they're slightly more clutch. But yeah, these two teams are, to me, best bar none. Busio, I wasn't super crazy about Busio as a support. I thought he was aight. But I think working with Masu, he did really, really well. Especially when we consider that Masu was a rookie and new to tier 1. I think Busio really helped him sort of adapt to that. So I like this bot lane as a duo. I think if you put Busio with some other AD carries, I'd probably rank them a lot lower. But specifically with Masu, I think this is a top tier bot lane together. Shopify Rebellion, my favorite team. You thought I was high on Furia yesterday? Oh, geez. Shopify's got me even higher than that. Problem is, actually, I should point out, we are not, unfortunately, starting... Whoops. Why did I capitalize this? I can see. I can't type. Unfortunately, we are not getting the Shopify Rebellion that I wanted to see. So, let's talk Shopify. Because Shopify blew up pretty much the entire roster. The only remaining player is B-Boy. And looking at the rosters, he'll have to be the biggest carry of this team. Again, I almost feel bad for B-Boy because this happened to him too in Brazil, right? Like when he was on Pain Gaming, he had to become like the primary carry of the team. And that means that teams can focus him down. So we look at what happened here. Shopify, I think there was an article put up by Sheep Esports talking to Revan about what happened with the roster and why they blew everything up. They didn't necessarily want to blow everything up. It's just what ended up happening in the offseason. And they talked a little bit about why they ended up with the players they ended up with. Now, I'll start with Fudge, because Fudge got kicked for Thanatos, which is fine. Like, I think with all the hype around Thanatos at the time, the kick was understandable. I won't say it's justified, but it was understandable. What I don't understand is nobody picked up Fudge after that, and even now, a lot of people are very, like, low on Fudge. I don't understand that. I think he's great. Like I said, I think of him as like kind of Bwipo, can be a huge carry. I think some of the criticism was that his laning was very hit or miss. Like he could be a carry, he could struggle, and he wasn't the best weak side. But that's fine, especially on a team with B-Boy. I think it's a mistake if you've got B-Boy on your team to put all your eggs in the B-Boy basket. Like, is B-Boy going to give you great returns for the investment? Sure, yeah, he is. But I think it's even better if you use B-Boy as just like a solid bot side, and then you can leave B-Boy in a 2v3 situation or even a 1v2 situation, and then put resources into Fudge instead. Give the resources into Fudge, knowing that B-Boy is not going to feed. And then now you've got 2 carries, and now you buy more space for B-Boy to play. And because of that, I think Fudge is actually a great pickup. I really like it. Contracts coming over from NRG. Well, I mean, NRG was that miracle roster, right? And I think a lot of it was on contracts. I think he's going to be a great jungler. Big carry. Do I call him a mood maker? Not necessarily, but like a playmaker. Sorry, that's the term I'm looking for. Yeah, I think Contracts is a big playmaker, and he's a great pickup for any of these teams. Again, North America's jungle role is actually really, really, really stacked. So, yeah, Contracts is good. Top 3, I think. Now, Palafox is the one I kinda am worried about. I think Revan has said before he wasn't necessarily the first pick. They wanted like Niski, they wanted Jojo, but Jojo went to Europe. Understandable. Probably wouldn't have ended up in Shopify anyways. And then Niski decided he didn't want to do it at the last second. and then they kind of went with Palafox. Now, I don't think Palafox is bad by any means, and I think the fact that Palafox and Contracts both played on the NRG roster is a good thing, because they should have synergy together. And jungle mid is really, really important in terms of synergy and making plays happen. However, he's inconsistent. On a good day, Palafox looks like a top tier mid laner, but he has bad days. And when he's on a bad day, yeah, it's going to be kind of bad. It's going to be really, really, really rough. And looking at this lineup, I don't think you can afford to have bad days against a lot of these players, right? Because there's a lot of mid carry potential. Mid's going to be incredibly volatile. And so I think for Shopify Rebellion, they're actually going to live or die on this mid lane. If Palafox dies, he tends to like completely crumble, and then you just lose all control over the map. So as a whole, yeah, this mid lane is so worrying for me. Now, support. It should have been Seos. Seos, the Brazilian wonder boy from 2023, who just dominated on Loud, led Loud to, you know, those 4-time victories. I wouldn't say led Loud necessarily, because after all, Robo, I think, was a huge part on the Rift. But Seos was definitely praised as being very intelligent. Even on the Kaboom roster, he was not why they failed, that's for sure. Kaboom had a lot of problems. Seos is not one of them. But he's not starting because he's got visa issues, same as Shaden. And instead, they've put Zeyzal back. Now, Zeyzal is serviceable. He's perfectly fine. I think in tier 2, Zeyzal is really, really good. In tier 1, though, I can just say he's serviceable, right? When you've got players like, you know, or JJ as support, Vulcan as support, you know, Huhi as support. Like, Zeyzal is okay, but and I think we saw that a lot with the Zeyzal Bvoy bot lane last split, that their laning was not necessarily their strongest point, and Bvoy was doing a lot of the carrying of that. And then in team fights, it was okay. Like, there's enough bodies. Zeyzal can act as another body in those fights. It's fine. But one thing that I think Seos massively has over Zeyzal is that Seos is a better roamer. And is much more impactful with the time he's using on the map. And I think Seos and Contracts together could make a lot of things happen. Contracts and Zeyzal together, I have doubts. And especially with Palafox, right? Like I was talking about. If you live or die by Palafox, you need to send resources there. I am not confident that Zeyzal can efficiently send those resources to Palafox without negatively impacting Bvoy. So we'll have to see about that. And again, 4 straight losses, and you're out. This roster, kind of dangerous. I think split 1 is not going to end well, but we'll see how it goes in split 2. They could surprise. I do think Shopify Rebellion has a lot of potential upside. Fudge is high variance. Palafox is high variance. If they're all playing on the top of the game, it'll be good. I don't think they're going to beat FlyQuest, though. the world in which they beat FlyQuest is a very, very minimal timeline. But up against Lion Gaming or C9, I could see Shopify Rebellion walking away with a win. And speaking of Lion Gaming and C9, here we go. Lion Gaming is the LA guest spot. Or not guest spot, right? The LA partner. The South American partner. But I look at this roster, and I'm going to be honest, this does not look particularly Latin American to me. You've got Licorice, who's coming in from Dignitas, who is, I want to say, fine. Like, Licorice didn't stand out to me. Let me just double check what his stats were like. Yeah, he was aight. Like, he was average. Yeah, I don't like his KP being a bit low there, but that's fine. GTA 15. Again, very average. Well, that's playoffs, but let's check. GTA 15. Yeah, it's kind of average for the most part. I'm pretty sure his solo kill count wasn't very high. Yeah. Again, average. DPM. Okay, it was a bit low for DPM, but that's, yeah. Kill participation, I think, is more accurate. Yeah, just very, very average. As a top lane, I just feel like, was there a better option they could have gone for here? Okay, Dokla had a bad split, so that was probably not a better pickup. Heck, did Fake God do better than Licorice? Yeah, he actually might have. Okay. Yeah, Fake God actually, on average, did better than Licorice. That is surprising to me. Okay, to be fair though, I'm not gonna say, oh, you should have picked Fake God over Licorice. I think they're both just very average top laners for the most part. Um, hold on, was there anybody who picked up from the LLA side? Did all the good players from LA top laners end up on LTA South? Okay, yeah, okay. I see why they ended up with Licorice for Lion Gaming. I I kind of wished instead of picking up Henna that they just went with a import top laner instead, because I feel like Licorice is gonna be just, yeah, he'll be fine. Like he should beat Castle. I could see him taking Sniper. Um, yeah, he'll be okay. Audie's a good pickup though, and I think people are sleeping a little bit on Audie in North America. He's considered the best South American, oh sorry, the best LA jungler, I should say, because South America would include Brazil. Brazil is like a whole different ecosystem. Considered best. Most consider him above Jose Deodo. I personally don't agree with that, but there's a reason why people think that. He's really, really good. Saint coming in is an interesting one as well. Playing for DK Challengers. Yeah, he did well. Yeah, Saint is mechanical. I think he's just going to be your stereotypical Korean mid import. Like he'll do well mechanically. Though I do wonder how the connection between Audie and Saint is going to go a little bit, because I find like a lot of these Korean mid imports struggle initially, which is kind of bad for this first split. How about Henna? And it's from FearX. Played a bit in Bro as well. Okay. Yeah, again, I mean, Henna's actually got LCK experience, which I think is going to count for a lot compared to a lot of these other imports. Like straight up an LCK import like that is going to be strong. Obviously, that means that his mechanics are going to be fine. It's just more like, how is he going to mesh with Lions from R7? Lions, gonna be honest, didn't particularly impress me in the R7 roster. At Worlds, like he was there. It felt like a lot more of the... Again, like with bot lanes, it's hard to tell like who's doing what, right? I think Seo certainly had the bigger brand, and yeah, I feel like I personally attribute a lot more to Seo. He didn't stand out to me. So this roster from Lion feels really, really weird, and it's like a mishmash of players, you know. And I'm not seeing necessarily what, like, sure, you've got two really mechanical players, and I guess like they're just gonna have the Koreans be the primary carrier of this team. But I don't know if Licorice is gonna be able to hold. I assume most of the resources from Audi are gonna go towards the mid bot lane. And I don't know what the synergy between Henna and Lions is going to look like. If that's not good, then I feel like you're really capping what Lions can actually accomplish. Oh, sorry, what Henna can actually accomplish. So yeah, just a lot of synergy issues, I feel like, coming through from Lion Gaming. And for Split 1, again, you just don't have time. So I think Lions is in for the toughest situation. That's why I was kind of thinking SR might be able to pull off a win against Lion, and then we'll kind of see how it goes from there. C9. I think Lunar's gone, but unfortunately I was going to ask her like why she's so against C9. I think C9 actually did some choices which might have made it more of an arguable downgrade. I don't know. We'll kind of see how it goes. I know Thanatos didn't live up to the hype, but I think people overhyped him. Like I thought Thanatos did well. Like he was still one of the best top laners in the region, which had quite a few carry top laners. So I was fine with that. Yeah, sure, he didn't just like smash the opposition, but that speaks more, I think, to the strength that the LCS has and just doesn't utilize properly half the time. To me, he's still top 3. Is he still top 3? Impact, Thanatos. Yeah. Yeah, I'd actually say he's like probably still second best. Yeah. Again, carries, please. Like, this guy can carry, given the resources. Blabber is a really good jungler, and I felt like he was a big part of the success from Cloud9. At times, it felt like C9 almost lived or died by Blabber. I know that's a crazy statement to make when they had Jojopian and Berserker on their team. But, like, okay, Berserker, first of all, was absolutely insane. This guy was super consistent all throughout. Like, he's the big carry, bar none. But I feel like... felt like team lived or died. Okay. First of all, I think Jojopian underperformed significantly last split. I didn't think he was that good. So I'm not surprised that C9 kind of wanted to drop Jojopian by the end of it. He was just kind of meh. Like, you could see that his mechanics on show, but like, he also puts himself in bad positions. He didn't like... Yeah, there's only so much you can do, you know, and I felt like Jojo didn't live up to the hype quite as much. If anything, I felt he lived up to the hype less than Thanatos did. So in that sort of situation, then I felt like it became like, okay, you've got Berserker carrying, and then they needed another carry from somewhere, whether it be Thanatos, Blabber, or Jojopian. And more often than not, it was Blabber over here who felt like the tipping point, you know, what really brought the team into the win, as it were. So yeah, I think Blabber was absolutely massive and will continue to be so on the C9 roster, even though they've swapped out their mid and bot. And in fact, the switch from Berserker to Sven, I feel like puts even more pressure on Blabber to be a carrier, to get the right lanes ahead. Loki, I don't know about this guy whatsoever. I've heard such split thoughts on this guy. People are like, oh, you know, he's really, really good. And then people are telling me that, oh, he's aight. Like, he's your stereotypical Korean mid-import, I guess. At least that's what I've heard people say. I haven't really watched tape on him on HLE. So I'm not like super sure who was the carrier on these teams. But either way, it does feel like a downgrade. Just because we know what Jojo's been able to do, like when he's on fire. Again, I don't think he had a great last split by any means. So, yeah, but we'll see. It kind of similar to what I was saying for players, you know, like Palafox or Abadage. Like, I kind of put Loki in that same category where I'm not super convinced and I'm a little bit worried. I don't know if Loki will fit as well as Quad and Quid did. I don't know if he's going to be able to match up, you know, to like Saint or Kena and that sort of thing as well. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Sven to me is going to be a strategically brilliant AD carry. He's played support and coach before, so I think his strategy is going to be there. He played for Dig last split, and I wasn't super crazy about that bot lane that he had with who was with Isles. Like they were solid. They were fine. Like, he's not going to feed. You can leave him alone, and that's why I call him strategically brilliant. I think, yeah, it's going to be a case where we see maybe Vulcan roam out to help Loki, roam out to make plays with Blabber. I think that the big advantage of having Sven is that he's a very safe AD carry. And like I talked about, with the amount of carry top laners, I think Atakan might be topside quite a bit. And Sven's going to know how to play that, how to set up his bot lane, how to move. If we start seeing TPs come back in with mages like Ziggs, like Victor and stuff like that, I think Sven's going to use that very, very well. So, yeah. And traditional marksman as well, Sven's no slouch either. He can play those. It's just that I don't put him in the same category as I do, like, say, Masu, for example, who I think is, or Bvoy, where like they're going to be like the big, massive carries for their team. Like, if they stay alive, they auto win the fight. Vulcan's good. I think Vulcan was, yeah. I think Vulcan is a little bit underrated because he played with Berserker, right? And Berserker makes a lot of those aggressive, like, crazy plays on his own, highlight reel moments. And Vulcan gets overshadowed, but I actually low-key think And maybe this isn't a hot take, that Vulcan is one of the better supports in the region. Yeah, I actually, no, the more I think about that, I don't think that's that hot a take, actually. I think like Core JJ, Vulcan, Hoofy, these guys are some of the best supports in the region. So top 3. Yeah, so not necessarily Loki. That said, yeah, I think a lot of this team, kind of not dissimilar from SR, is going to hinge on Loki. But unlike SR, I don't necessarily think that like I expect C9 to be top 4. I expect them to make the conference playoffs. I'd be shocked if they didn't. It's more just a matter of how well they perform. Can they actually challenge Team Liquid and FlyQuest? Like last year, I think C9 was expected to, beat FlyQuest and Team Liquid, or at least, be in the top 3 unconditionally. But this one, I think now it's like there's a condition. Like, are you in that top tier or are you not? And I think a lot of that will hinge on Loki. If Loki can display a better performance than JoJo last year, then I think C9 is a great spot. If not, then I think C9 should still make playoffs, should still be a top 4 team, but it's a question of just, are they 3rd? Are they 4th even? Potentially? That sort of deal. And how big's the gap? Yeah, but they should be fine. They should move on. Okay, so that's all 8 teams in the LCS, or pardon me, LTA North. I'm going to keep calling them the LCS. Old habits, man. I've been watching LCS since the beginning, so... yeah, I think there are a lot of changes and a lot more questions, or a lot more differences in how these teams are going to play compared to how they were last year. Yeah, FlyQuest, Team Liquid, and what's the one? FlyQuest, Liquid, and 100 Thieves. I think those 3 are the ones that kind of are just going to be the same as what they were last year. Like nothing too crazy. No big changes, but every other team I think has changed quite a bit in how they want to play. Like C9 no longer has Berserker, so I think you have to play a bit more to Thanatos. Shopify, Shopify, I want to see them change, and I think Palafox is also high risk in terms of mid laners. And if you can play that right, that's good. I mean, you could argue Insanity was also kind of high risk because he liked to do weird things, but Insanity's weirdness, I think, was actually in a way more consistent because, yeah, you could roughly tell what was going to happen. And then Lion, obviously a big change for them as a merger team. And this guy's completely wiped out their team. So a lot more question marks, a lot more like unsure how it goes. I do think there are kind of very clear tiers, though, for LTA North compared to LTA South, where I think things are a lot more mixed because there are some teams that I think are going to overperform. I think in terms of tiers, we have like the tier 1, or I call them tier 1. No, that's tier list. You got S tiers here. I've got A tier here. Okay, I'm gonna put Shopify in A tier. I understand that a lot of people are gonna disagree with that. That's perfectly fine. I am okay with that. I understand that this is my wild take. Like I said, this is my Furia of LTA North. As Lunar says, sometimes like I overhype teams. This will be my overhype. That's fine. Then I think B tier. Sheesh. I don't know if I should put. Do I think Dig would be? How high am I on Dig right now? Nah, I'm gonna be conservative. I'll just C tier everybody else. I think that's roughly where I'm kind of seeing things right now, for the most part. Yeah. And I think that this guy's in line have a potential to be D. Kind of depending on how things go. Mostly, actually for both teams, they are mid and AD carries are the ones which I'm like kind of think will decide whether they're C or D tier for the most part. So, okay. That's it for the LTA North. And once again, reminder, LTA, both North and South, starts this Saturday. That's 1 p.m. Brazil time, which is... Wait, is that right? Yeah. 1 p.m. Brazil time, I think, is when LTA South starts, which is 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, and then 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern is when LTA North starts. Both will be running. There's a lot of hype. I think round 1 for both sides has some one-sided matches, but some... Actually, no. LTA South, day one, I'm gonna call it right now. Their first round is more interesting. LTA North, their random draw, I think has, funnily enough, kind of made it not like there's no matches which I think are insanely close in the first round. So yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I'm favoring the South for round one. We'll see how it goes. Round two, I think, will be spicier in the North than it is in the South. But either way, new rosters, new changes, new season, new league. Be there or be square, and that's it for my stream today. LTA South, the former CB Law English stream, will be covering the games this weekend. You can catch us on twitch.tv/LTA South. You can find us on Twitter at LTA South as well. And please do follow us on Twitter to keep up with any updates we have. We should also be having Grigos the Brothers drop later this week, a continuation from last week. That's it for now. Have a good one, y'all. See you all around. Thanks for watching. Bye.